And 20 years from now, man, I believe that we're going to be one of the most powerful, soccer countries in the world. There's going to be an American kid soon that is in that, top 20 players in the world, eventually top 10, and then maybe even one of the best.
Philadelphia, along with Dallas, the lungs of our youth development system, producing talents like Brendan and Paxton Aronson, Austin Trusty and Mark McKenzie, and on and on. And so I'm delighted to be joined by a gent who's done as much as anyone to build a pathway for the next generation of big dreaming American footballing talent. After a 9-year MLS career as an absolutely no-nonsense central defender, mostly with your Chicago Fire, and now over a decade plus with his hometown club, the Philadelphia Union, where he's risen from being an academy assistant coach to climb every step up from there, playing a crucial role in the construction of one of the most productive academies this nation's ever seen. It's two-time MLS Coach of the Year, pride of Orland, Pennsylvania, sometimes sideline Prada model, Jim Curtin.
Raj, thanks for having me, man. Great to be on. You just made me sound a lot better than I am. I really appreciate that. You'd make a great agent.
I just read your LinkedIn page out back to you, Jim, if I'm being honest.
Much appreciated.
You are currently the second longest serving coach in the league. And you've said recently that one of your roles, and I find this fascinating, Jim, as an American manager, is to develop players for the United States national team, which struck me deeply because it's not something that you hear in England. The Premier League coach is there to win with his club or get fired. But you see a loftier goal, a greater sense of mission, almost an obligation as an MLS manager.
I do, and I think it goes all the way back to 10 years ago when I sat down with the owners and Richie Graham, and we decided now to come up with a model. And our model was not going to be one where we went out and bought the best player and sold jerseys and tickets. It was more a build from within, and we came up with 3 pillars. And the quick version of those pillars is: number 1 was we wanted to build from within. Number 2, we believe that 11 cohesive players can beat any group of individual superstars. And number 3, we have to be very innovative in how we do it, with whether that be with data, with scouting, and different things like that. And we've really stayed true to those values. In the good times, when it's easy, for sure, we stayed to those 3 pillars. But also, most importantly, Raj, in the bad times, when it was hard and we had to make tough decisions, we still stuck to those pillars. So whether we were winning, losing, or drawing games, we always reviewed those pillars. And it starts with that first one, building within, and that belief in youth development. We thought that we could have that become our designated player, so to speak. If these young kids really push and have this bond together from age 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, when they get on the field in Subaru Park, man, they're going to leave it all out there. And it really represents the city of Philadelphia as well. So it was a really good fit and a model that I'm proud of. And I'm also lucky for the patience to execute the plan, because sometimes in pro sports, there's not that patience there to build something special.
I want to dig deeper into both the model and that patience. But big picture, you are someone who has seen young players develop at every single level, every stage. And I'm curious, at what age do you first see that spark, that special something, that magic, that special sauce, that possibility? What age is it that you see the kid with the raw materials and you're like, that one?
It's a great question. And anyone who tells they know that exact moment is wrong, because it's not a one size fits all. So, for example, a Derek Jones who grew up in a tough neighborhood in West Philly has a different development trajectory than the Aronson brothers, right? So it's not the same for every kid. And they're all going to have these moments where they rise, and then they're going to plateau a little. Then they might even have a big dip, and they might go again. So what we did really well in Philly, and I have an incredible staff with our academy and what Tommy Wilson does there, each player has an individual plan. And that plan, like I said, is different for each kid. So if we have a Jack McGlynn who has this cultured, unbelievable left foot, we're going to treat him a little different than an Austin Trusty who is this animal in the air and wins everything. So it has to be different for each kid. It has to be timed in a way that I won't say I know exactly when the moment is to throw them out there, but I will say, Raj, more times than not, when you put the young ones out there from our academy, they have this sense of not wanting to let down their teammates, their brothers that they grew up with in the academy, the fans of Philadelphia, and they really raise their level. And more times than not, these young players never let you down. So, yes, I'm nervous when I throw Aronson out there in front of 60,000 in Atlanta, But guess what? When he scored that goal, that was one of my proudest moments of my coaching career because he rose to the level of that game. He scores against Brad Guzan, and the rest is history. So I think back to even a Mark McKenzie's moment now, where we could have gone with an older center back that was more experienced, but we threw him out there after an injury, and he's playing against David Villa in his first game, and I'm terrified for him. But guess what? He rose to the challenge. So again, each kid has a story and each kid has a trajectory, and it's important not to label them all as it's just going to be this one plan for everybody. Each kid needs a different plan, and how you develop them has to be different and has to be specific to what the Philadelphia Union is about, and then what's best for them long term.
You've been doing this now, this youth development, for over a decade. What is one thing that you've learned? How's your thinking evolved? What's one thing you got wrong that you've realized you've got wrong and have changed in that period?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think early on, I was a new coach, right? So, I was given the opportunity to make mistakes. You learn about press conferences, what to say, what not to say. But in terms of youth development, the one thing that really has really switched over the years with me is initially I had this idea of, wow, we have these great young players out there. Let's add a $5 million guy to the group, and it'll just be seamless, and we'll just rise quickly. As I've kind of watched and sat back and learned from some peers in the league and different coaches that I'm close with, sometimes that big ego and personality dropped in can blow the whole thing up. So what I'm getting at, Raj, is if I don't have an Alejandro Bedoya who's played in a World Cup, who's played in Europe, who's seen it all, and is my voice in the locker room, if I don't have a guy like that, that's that mentality, rather than maybe the arrogant 5 million, 10 million, $20 million player that can disrupt things, Zlatan, or whatever it might be, you know what I mean? Those types of guys are special players and they're world class, but they might not be what's right for us. And I think that took me some time to learn. And now I almost embrace the fact that our way is unique. We want to do it where we have homegrown players out there, not only beating these superstar teams, but also going to Europe and developing and playing for Leeds or playing in Belgium and thriving. So that part of things, I think, is something that over time has shifted. And then that mindset of, like I said before, the more times you give these kids chances, and I was really nervous early on to give them their first debut, but now it's easy, man. I don't think twice. It's like, okay, who's next in line? Throw them out there. They don't let you down, man. The young kids won't let you down because of the environment that you created here in Philadelphia. And it's not me, it's everybody that's involved in it. All the great academy coaches, the sports performance staff, the scouts. We all kind of share an ownership with it. And we say it all the time. This badge is only 2.5 inches, but none of us are bigger than it. No sporting director, no coach, and no players as well. So we're all kind of share in this, growth and development and just the betterment of U.S. soccer, really.
No Zavas in the Philadelphia Union locker room. It's time. Let's dive into what makes Philadelphia special, apart from Jim's cheesesteaks. All right, and Hall & Oates. I'm talking about the enormous investment Philadelphia Union has made in youth development, in producing over 20 homegrown players who've made the first team, which is remarkable. How important a strategy is it to merely emphasize that pathway from youth academy into the first team and then reinforce it over and over and over, with one young player seeing the next pull on a first team jersey and being inspired, encouraged almost to make the possible real by following suit?
Yeah, the bond of these players in our academy is so strong. We had a first class of 5 that came through together. One will start today against the LA Galaxy at left back for us, in Matt Real, and he's been here. He's heard my voice since he was 8 or 9 years old. So they have this really strong bond that when they're on the field, they all know each other's strengths. They know each other's weaknesses. It's so powerful. It really is our designated player, so to speak, because these kids go out and of course we're going to try and produce the next Landon Donovan or Clint Dempsey out in our academy. That's always the goal. But the importance for a coach to have these good, strong 7, 8 out of 10 every performance is also really important. So we have this great core of role players that have been our homegrowns. And you're right, when they see each other rise and have success, it makes them competitive and not want to let the other guy down. And it's been really our strength and really has pushed us and kept us consistent through the years. These homegrown players, which usually you wouldn't think the young players are the ones that make a club consistent and strong, but really at the Union, I think it's the opposite. It really is that way. Our youth really is our engine that kind of drives us.
In the past, Jim, we have had blind spots in our scouting system. African Americans and Latino communities have often been left out completely. How have you guys met that challenge?
Yeah, I think that we're one of the few countries in the world where the best players pay the most money to get better. And what we've done in Philadelphia is we have made it free. So that's not just in soccer. Unfortunately, it's lacrosse, it's basketball, it's AAU, it's baseball, it's football. The better your kid is, the more money you're paying for this coach, that coach, this specialist. It's become kind of crazy, and it's a little bit backwards. We have housing now that if we do find a kid in the Philly area, we have several house moms that will set up and bring the kids out into maybe a better environment each and every day, where now they're getting fed the right way, they're getting everything taken care of for them. So yes, there are initiatives to help out in that regard. And again, this is the best game in the world for a reason. It's the most popular game in the world. And it should be open and available and free to all talented young kids. No kid should be left behind. So I'm really proud of what our club does for that. There's no more philanthropic family than the Graham family and our ownership group that's put so much money into, behind the scenes money into making the game grow. We have a program called the Swag. It's in the inner cities, and these kids, the things that they're doing, Raj, it's unbelievable. The talent, they're getting good coaching. We have scouts going into the inner cities that for 7, 8-year-olds, and of course, getting them to fall in love with the game first, back to that first thing I mentioned. And if that happens now, and more kids are out there kicking the ball around, it's only going to get better and better as we move towards 2026 in the World Cup here in the USA.
As a nation, we've failed often to qualify for the Olympics with our youth team. We've often struggled, even with just the sheer gigantic size of our country, for appropriate scouting and recruitment. What do you see as the single greatest barrier we face as a nation towards achieving the next level of youth development?
Oh, that's a long one. I think we oftentimes are really divided, Raj. We're not all on the same page as a country, right? So, there's a great quote about power that I think applies to business. It applies to religion, politics, whatever it might be, but it also applies to sport. And the quote, I can't take credit for it, but it's basically, power is always dangerous, right? It now attracts the worst people and it corrupts the best. You know what I mean? So whenever there's too much power for just the US soccer or just MLS or just USL or just college soccer, things get really messed up and fouled up. It has to really become a democracy where we're all really on the same page and pulling in the same direction. So there's still great things that happen in high school soccer in the country, but the academies shouldn't try to bury that and kill it. So I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying that because I'm an MLS guy, but I still think that there's beauty in the game at all levels. And I think that the more we get on the same page and we don't make it about how much money can you make as a youth director in soccer for 8 and 9-year-olds, there's just a lot that's still where we're not on the same page. It should be that we all kind of embrace each other's differences and try to help each other out a little bit more than we do. So that would be my big picture problem that I see when too much power goes to one entity, or maybe even worse, one person. It becomes very, very dangerous. And that too much power, sometimes makes things go south. I know that's a broad painting of everything, but I think I've seen that happen now in my time in the game. Where too much power can make it go in the wrong direction. And if we're not all in this together as a country, bad things happen. And you see, negative effects of it all over the place.
We are currently, as you've already mentioned, importing one Lionel Messi, the greatest player to ever kick a football, registration pending, signing for Inter Miami in, frankly, a flabbergasting move I didn't dare dream could happen. And that will no doubt create the dividing line of pre-Messi and post-Messi eras for Major League Soccer. But how long will it be until we create a Messi? And by that, obviously there's only one Messi. He's ethereal and transcendent. But by that, I merely mean an elite level outfielder, truly elite. Mould him from scratch and bald eagles and gumption and get to see him play on these shores before he's 36 years old.
Wow. So I think he's the best that ever did it, just like Michael Jordan. And for me, is the best ever. So we're going to aspire like heck to produce the next Messi. We might never get there because he might be the best that we'll ever see in our lifetime. But I think what we can do, Raj, is if all these academies and like I talked about before, if we all get on the same page here in this country, man, we're going to start rather than producing, 6 out of 10s, we're going to be producing 8.5, 9 out of 10s. And the more 9 out of 10s that you get playing against each other through the age groups, all the way up and working hard through their academies, eventually that thing is going to pop and you're going to get one. And you're going to have a player that is the best in the world. Let's call it that, because I don't know if we can get a Messi. We can maybe, but we're going to aspire to do it. I look at the kid as an example, the kid Musa. When I watch him for the U.S., he plays in a position that maybe isn't the most glamorous, and you don't see the goals or assists yet, but I think he could be world class. I do really see that for his age. I think he can go to that level. So then maybe a player like him, or call it whoever else, pops and we get a top 20 player in the world, and then maybe a top 10, and then eventually, we work our way up. This is America, right? You know that we don't like to be last in anything. We got to be first, right? So that's an attitude that gets us in trouble a little bit, but that's what makes us us.
Jim, you've been involved in this game at all levels for a couple of decades now. Project forward for me. What do you believe over the next 20 years youth development on the men's side is going to look like in this country? What are we going to see from a profound change perspective?
Yeah, I've made a lot of comments on this, Raj, and I still am maybe in the minority, and I believe so much in the young American player. And some of my old quotes about that we can become one of the best soccer nations in the world in my lifetime, I get killed for, and I'm saving those all up for when we do finally achieve it. But no, look, I see so much talent. I see them doing things that now at age 12 and 13 that I didn't learn till I was 28, 29 years old as a pro. So it's coming. There's so many great athletes in this country. The coaching has some catching up to do, but I think it's getting better and better at a youth level, which is important. And 20 years from now, man, I believe that we're going to be one of the most powerful, soccer countries in the world. And I say that a lot. And people laugh at me and I get criticized, and then there's headlines that are negative about when I say it. But it's just something that I've truly believed in. And I think we have obviously a ton of work to do. 2026 is a really big benchmark for us with the World Cup being in the United States. I know that there's a lot of work from now till then. But man, when I look out and see the American talent that BJ's been leading in the Gold Cup now, it's been really fun to watch, man. I think that there's some kids that can take that step into quote unquote top players in the world. I really think that there's going to be an American kid soon that is in that, top 20 players in the world, eventually top 10, and then maybe even one of the best.
Jim, to that future, and to you, to your staff, your team, your owners, the youth academy coaches, just the day. I know it's a massive army who are working to build that future out of Philadelphia. But on behalf of all of us, I'm incredibly grateful.
Thanks so much for having me, Raj. This has been incredible. You make it very easy. You're a pro, and look, part of this thing too, at its most simple, is making soccer cool in America. And you're doing that, man, in a way that you don't realize. And now that it's become cool, I'm telling you, I walk around my neighborhood and kids aren't just wearing Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers. It's Union, it's Barcelona, it's Messi, it's Ronaldo. There's soccer jerseys everywhere. So the growth has been really fun. We still have a lot of work to do. And guys like you are making it better and better. And I'm happy to be a small part of it here in Philly. And thank you to my owners, too. I thank them enough, I think, too. But they've been great to me and allowed me to make mistakes, man. I messed up a lot too early on, and now we're in a good spot, and we're going to keep going and pushing this thing.
Oh, damn you, Gareth Bale. Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos, and courage.